everyone, and welcome back to the Smoke-In Studios for another live episode of the Rocky Mountain Cigar Show. I am so happy to be able to invite John Carney back to the show. We actually just looked it up pre-show. His last time on was episode 28. Can you believe we are on episode 180 right now? I can't, and it's all because you guys like to watch the show and support it and support the brands that support the show, and it's always much appreciated. So let's see, do I have any show stuff to get to? No. So without any other further ado, let's go ahead and bring on the big man himself. John, how you doing, brother?
Doing good, Ryan. Thanks for having me tonight, man. Looking forward to it. I haven't had too many cigars today, so I've got somewhat of a fresh palate coming into this, which is rare.
Well, we're going to try to do this a little bit situated out a little bit different than what I normally do. We're going to go into the only segment that we have, which is the What Are You Smoking Tonight segment, sponsored by Dunbarton Tobacco and Trust. And we're going to cut and light together. Well, at least light together. So let's go ahead and kind of rock this thing off. Let's see here. All right. All right. There you go, John. Tell us, what are you smoking tonight, brother?
So I'm smoking tonight the brand new. I'm going to smoke two. I'm not going to smoke them together at the same time, but brand new, coming out in about 3 weeks here in the U.S. I'm smoking the Bentley Green Half Corona.
Okay. A nice
And
little
I got
dog
the
walker.
Bentley. Yeah, and I got well, that's trademark, so I can't use that name. But yeah. And then I got Bentley White Half Corona. So I got the
Oh,
white and I got the green, and I'm gonna light the green up first.
I think that's fucking ridiculous, by the way, that dog walker is trademarked for the cigar. Like, that's like a terminology of almost kind of like TV. Like, that's a huge amount. And then somebody goes and trademarks huge amount. Like, it just doesn't like
So yeah, so it's
unless it was the
trademarked by
name
a
of a
very.
cigar.
It is the name of a cigar.
Okay,
So it's
that's
actually
before my
owned by
time.
a very, very close friend of mine. His name's Kurt Kendall. He owns the cigar brand 724, which was
I
a
didn't know
brand
they
out of New
had one
Hampshire.
called. Yeah, I didn't know they had one called
Yeah,
Dog Walker.
yeah, it's a little. By the way, they're delicious. They're petite Coronas, and they're called the Dog Walker. He has like 3 or 4 different lines with different blends with them. But yeah, highly recommend them. But yeah, they're called the Dog Walker, and it's funny because I'm from Maine originally, and I lived in New Hampshire for several years when I was in the cigar industry, and obviously that's a really big part of the premium cigar business in terms of the Northeast. New Hampshire is one of the more famous places for cigars. Places like Twins Smoke Shop, which is what Kurt owns, and then
Mm-hmm.
Two Guys Cigars in Two Guys Cigars in New Hampshire. But he's got a cigar named the Dog Walker, and it's funny because since I spent so much time up there and I'm from that area, whenever you have a small cigar, everybody's like that. Oh, that man, that's like a dog walker, and I'm like, actually, it actually 100% is not because it's trademarked. My friend owns a trademark, its actual cigar name, but yes, it is at the same time. So
I'm referring to dog walker in the essence of time here. So while you're
hmm
going to go ahead and you're smoking that, I am smoking the larger format, I assume, of what you're smoking, since they're both the green. And this is going to have tobaccos from the blended aged tobaccos and filler binder from Jalapa Valley with an Ecuadorian Rosado wrapper. So let's go ahead and cut in, or go ahead and cut. They're cut. See, this is a new segment. I'm kind of trying to add more pieces to this, so I'm kind of faking it until I make it right now through this. But as far as the new introduction, I've never actually done like a light with somebody on the show where that's part of it. So you're the first for this one, John.
yeah, I got. So this will be out in about 3 weeks. It's the half Corona. It's going to be available in 5 packs, and it's available internationally currently in boxes, but we're bringing it here to the U.S. in 5 packs. And then for the first time ever, the white line will be in a half Corona. This is a brand new size. It doesn't exist anywhere yet, and it will here in about 3 weeks. Well, it exists here now. It's just waiting on packaging, which is par for the course for premium cigars. You're always waiting on packaging, it seems like. but it's a 3 and 3/4 inch by 46. So nice little half Corona.
What do you think? You think about 30 minutes on that? Probably, if you're really puffing it, maybe 45. You stretch it out.
If you're taking your time on it, you could probably go 45 minutes. But mostly what I've got out of it's about 30. I smoke relatively quickly. I might be a little slower tonight. We'll see. But yeah, about 30 to 45 minutes, no more than that. Anybody that's getting like an hour out of it's taking some serious time.
Now, what's MSRP on that? I don't know if you mentioned it yet.
Well, you know what? We actually haven't. When I say it's funny when I say we, because here in the U.S. it's just me. Um, so I haven't actually decided yet. I don't know. Maybe if people are watching, what would they be willing to pay for a half Corona?
All
I
right.
guess, or what would they expect? So
Well,
the rest of our line, so the Robusto that you're smoking is $14 MSRP. The
I would.
regular Corona is 13. So just because it's not half the size, um, it's not literally
Okay.
half,
Okay.
but
So I'll
so I haven't
compare.
decided yet.
So I'll compare it to other cigars in that area that I know and enjoy, and know that I would like and enjoy that one. I would say around $10. I would say that's a fair. I've got cigars that size right now in my humidor that are 10. I've got them that size that are 8, and I've got them that size that are like 12. I think 10. I
Mhm.
think 10 to 12 is what we're seeing here. So thank you so much, Steve Saka, for sponsoring the "What Are You Smoking Tonight" segment. Let's go ahead and get into the show because we want to show some comments here. So yeah, we're looking at around 10 to 12 is what Bruce is saying. Mike's over here saying $9. Everyone comment. What would you smoke for a dog walker size? What'd you say it was, a 3.5 by what?
It's 3 and 3/4 by
3 3/4
46.
by
And I dead
46.
serious. I haven't established an MSRP on it yet, and I actually have to do it. I have some ideas and I have some thoughts. But yeah, no, I said I'm very open to people's opinions on what they think that something like that's so the blend itself is a 3-year-old aged Habano wrappers that comes out of Hoyt in Nicaragua. They're our manufacturing partner. We've been partners with them, and my partners in the Bentley brand, the Schuster family, Martin Schuster specifically from Germany, has been working with them for over 30 years. So, um, one second, I got a train going by here.
Well, while the train's going by,
So,
if he needs to mute himself tonight, everybody, I am going to be washing this down with the Hidden Barn Slow Fade batch. You can currently get out in stores or go straight to the Neeley Family Distillery website and pick it up. It is the official. It is the official bourbon of the Rocky Mountain Cigar Show. So, all right, did the
beautiful.
train go by? Oh, it did. Okay.
Yeah, it shouldn't be a big problem. I'll probably just let it make sounds the next time, so then everybody knows I'm actually being real with it. But yeah, so it's a 3 and 3/4 by 46, 3-year-old aged Habano Rosado wrapper. Hoyt in Nicaragua has been our partners and manufacturing partners for over 30 years since the Schuster family. As I said, they're my partners in the Bentley brand. They're out of Germany. We'll get a little bit more into what they are and how that came about. But we've been working with them for a long time. That family's been working with them for a long time. So it's a really quality blend, Bentley. The reason I'm saying these things are when you're throwing out prices, look at it as a business. So what would you charge for a cigar that has that pedigree behind it with the brand name at that size?
I would say if the Robusto's 14, the Corona itself is, you said, $1 less. I would say 10, $11 on my end would be where I would go. I'm seeing people saying here around 9 to 10. Um,
Hmm.
but I think 10, 11 would be fair. Um, I mean, yeah, I would say I would say, because obviously you're not going to make it $13, right? So you're not going to also make it probably sub 7 or 8. So the reality is the scope of dollar range we're talking here is essentially $2. Is it 10 or is it
Yeah,
12? You know,
yeah. I, I'm leaning towards. So I did that same discussion in my head, and um, the it's kind of fun to talk about this. This doesn't usually get talked about on any type of cigar
No, it
shows or
doesn't.
publicly,
It
like
does not.
what goes into pricing. I can tell you, we get, you know, we use very premium products. Um, but there's anyone's lying to you if they're telling you there's not great margin built into cigars. There's good margin in
Correct.
this. So I don't have to have this thing cost, in my opinion, 12 or $13 at that size. I think some companies may come out with a cigar and put it at that price point, and
Sure,
I
sure,
don't know what they have going on and what cost of packaging, but like the cost of packaging for me is less than the value of one cigar.
sure.
One cigar MSRP, and anything we do, which is, there's some inside baseball, per se, with the cigar business. So yeah, there's not a crazy dollar value tied up in packaging, even though the packaging is going to be it's coming in a 5 pack. It's going to be beautiful. There's no crazy dollar value on that. We if you buy in quantity on certain things, that's what brings the prices down on
So you're not
packaging.
gonna box it? You're gonna put it in 5 packs only?
Well, yeah, well, it's going to be in 5 pack boxes. So
Okay.
if you're familiar with like what kind, I guess the best example is what like Davidoff does with they have
Sure.
4 packs,
Yeah.
but they're really high end cardboard material or corrugated material
Sure, sure.
packaging. So that's what they're going to be coming in. They'll be coming in those 5 packs initially, and then if it continues to do very well in that format, I have the ability to make them in 20 count boxes as well, too. So the sky's the limit with what we might do with it. But initially I'm just launching them in the 5 packs. Uh, with That's kind of the next step. The first year of Bentley launching here in the United States was keep it as simple as possible. The green line and the
Sure.
white line. So
Oh
those
yeah.
are the two lines we have. So green and white simple, and
Mhm.
then we picked the most common sizes too. Instead of doing,
Okay.
people love Bellicosos, and we have a Bellicoso, but we elected to do Corona, Robusto, Toro, and Churchill. Those are the top four selling sizes. Uh, for all of time. We get to see a lot of Gordos now, 6x60s, 770s. Those are a big part of the business as well, which we'll get into some larger format. But in traditional shapes, your top selling sizes have always been Toro, Robusto,
Sure.
Churchill, and Coronas.
Sure.
Those have always been that. So we did real traditional, and then the second tier of our rollout here in the U.S., we have a kind of a 4 tier and a 4 step process. We're really only on step 2 of the 4 steps. Um, Step 2 was to bring out the 5 packs in three of the lines. Sorry, in three of the sizes in both of the lines. So we have half Corona, Robusto, and Toro coming out in the 5 packs in white and green. And then,
Okay.
as you can tell, the half Corona wasn't one of the SKUs that was in there.
Mhm.
And but my initial thought on that, price point wise, was I kind of started. The first thing I did is what you did. The Corona's 13. That's the lower price. So if I have them with another size, then I started at. I said, let me look at 12. But then I'm like, $12. It's called the half Corona. I think that's a little too close. Once you put them side by side with the Corona is much more substantial in size. It's more than double the length. So I'm sitting there and I was like, then I went down to 11 in my head, and then I was like, well, do I want to go sub 10? Um, do I want to go sub 10? Is that the way my kind of argument for myself at sub 10 is if I went from 10, say I went down to 8 or 9, if it starts doing well, do you get greedy and then say, well, let's put this up to 9 or 10? And then you kind of screw the retail, the consumer at that level, where you could have just been like, where do I want to put this? So right now I'm between 9 and 11, which I'm kind of leaning more towards 10. So 9 would be cutting a little close on the margins that I want to make on it, but I think 10's fair.
Oh yeah, I think
Yeah.
10 is incredibly fair, and I think 10's a good number too. Like it's an easy number. If it's 200, it's $200 for the box. If it's or 199.99 for the box. If you're MSRP it on a 20 count, you're looking at $50 for a 5 pack. It's easy math, easy number. I like that. For that
Hmm.
size, I think 10's fair. Like
Hmm.
I said, there's a lot in my humidor that is relatively close to that size, and some are that size that are 10, are 12, you know? So I think that's fair. Plus, I think your client, I think sub 10 might also not be where you want your brand to be at either. Once you go sub 10, sometimes people expect more sub 10s, right? Am I wrong in that thought?
Yeah, and I think the size is what's interesting about it. To be honest, the it's smaller, but it's not. It's kind of a fatter Corona. It's a 46 ring gauge, so it's not 42 or 44. So it's got a little bit more girth to it. Um, so that's the size. It's kind of in between. So the unique thing is with it being this is the smallest smallest cigar size that we have. So there's nothing going to be any smaller than it. So really, what you do, in my opinion, with this on a sheer business level, is you're setting the
Your
floor
sub, yeah,
essentially.
for
So
sure.
yeah, so it's like is so $10. Do we want to have anything under 10? So this is really the smallest size, and so that's really kind of what I look at. What you set the
Yeah.
floor, and then you kind of want to look at what the ceiling is. So I think for me that's where why I edge toward 10 a little bit more is because okay, is that where we want the brand to be positioned? And fortunately, I'll be real honest with you. You know, thankfully the cigar industry is kind of going nuts with prices right now, where everybody's raising prices because of because of tariffs and all these other things. And there's stories for another day for what people can do with that with the tariff money. But I mean, the fact is, $10 is like a deal now in
Oh,
premium
oh,
cigars.
oh, it's
To be honest with you, like crazy. Like you 10, 15 years ago, if I'd said like a half Corona at $10, it doesn't matter what it says on it. It'd be like, man, that's crazy. That's way too much. I mean, 10, 15 years later, we're sitting here like $10 is a freaking great deal at like any size.
oh, I agree. And it's also crazy to think that how old are you again?
I'm 41.
Okay, so you're a year older than me. Back in the 90s, $2 was considered a lot for a good
Hmm.
cigar. Like what was it? I've been talked to people where they said if they paid like $3, that was considered expensive for a cigar in the early 90s. It hasn't been that long. And look at
No.
like a good quality cigar now is $8 to $10 starting. And so I think that's you're right in that thought process. This is gonna be the smallest format you're gonna make unless you come out with like a bundle opportunity. There's no reason to price this one more expensive than any of the other cigars. So you would be setting the floor with this. And I think if you went sub 10, people would go, oh, well, maybe he'll come out with a cigar for 950 or 925 or,
Hmm.
so I think setting it at 10 just also kind of level sets where your consumers know your kind of baseline lowest pricing is going to be at for a cigar.
Yeah, and I feel like it's fair. I feel like it's fair at that level, and I there's no need to be greedy. Could I probably get $12 for it? Maybe. I don't know, but I think at $10, I think there'll be people that'll be very interested in it. I think it'll position itself really well, um, in the market, and I think for what it is, I think around $10 is a pretty fair price for it. So,
Well, yeah.
um,
And,
I'm
and
excited for it to come out.
And like you said, I think $10 brings more people to. I know it's $2, but $2 makes a difference in some people's lives. Like
Oh,
drastically,
huge.
if they smoke a lot, that $2 is a lot of. It comes out to on a box of 20, that's $40 more. So
Mhm.
I think putting yourself to $10 opens your field of people that would put it in their everyday life, that would put it in
Mhm.
their daily routine.
Yeah, no, I agree, and I think the brand in general is very fairly priced. Um, the highest price cigar we have is $18, which is the 7x70 Bentley GT, which I'll show you. We can talk about in a little bit, but I'll show it here. We were looking earlier. This is coming out. We're doing a little rollout with this with a couple retailers, and then we'll be a little heavier with it in 2026. But this is a 7x70 called the Bentley GT, the Grand Toro, sorry. And this is a big boy, seven by
We
seventy. This is
take one out.
18.
Can you take one out and put it next
Yeah,
to your cigar that you're smoking?
yeah.
Just just so visually. Now, guys, uh, this is over an inch in diameter. Like there you go. Yeah, it's a couple sizes bigger.
Yeah. So that's our most expensive. So you're looking at the ceiling and the floor for now, and so I think we're very reasonably priced. $18, so
I think
that's
so.
nice. Our Churchill 16, the the Toro is 15, the Robusto is 14, and the Corona is 13. So I think we're in a really great price point. And I said the way prices have been going in the premium cigar industry, and it's been uh, I think it keeps making that price point better for us. And we have a really strong luxury brand name behind a really high end, really thoughtful, really good story, and really uh, thoughtful blend, and with a great manufacturer. So I think that's really fair. I was looking at some prices today. I was at a Corona Cigar Company here in Orlando, and I mean, I was looking at some stuff, and I'm like, I'm not going to name names on it. Everyone can go and look. And I'm like, holy shit, like some of these things are crazy. There's some Robustos from some big name companies that aren't known for being really expensive, and they're like 17, $18. And I'm like, man, I go, how did this happen? You know, there's other brands that I look at. I mean, I'll use one for an example, like Oliva Milanio. The Milanio, I mean, when that got like cigar of the year, that was like a $13 cigar or something like that. Now they're like
Hmm.
$20.
That's
I
why
mean,
it's $20
that's
though, because it got cigar of the year.
yeah, but then you have the whole line though. You got
That's true.
you're right, but you don't. I guess strike when the iron's hot. But I'm sitting there looking at price. I mean, that's a $7 to $8 price difference in the last like 6, 7, 8 years. It's like $1 a year almost when you look at it. And and there's other companies that are the same way. And I'm not saying price increases aren't important, because the second I announce a price increase, if someone's watching this, is like, well, John Carney criticized pricing. I'm not criticizing it. Just more kind of doing play by play, where it makes me think and be very thoughtful about how I price things, and and also how we, areas that we can save money. Hinges on a box can make a difference.
Hmm.
The bands you use, or how many bands you buy. Would I buy more bands to get a lower price? Would I buy more boxes to get a lower price? Cigars are pretty static if you have a strong relationship in the industry, but there's little things you can do to make a difference, and to try to keep the price as reasonable as possible. And I'm trying to do as much of that as I can in all the projects that I'm involved in both of my companies, to try to keep the prices as fair as possible, and at the same time, make make revenue in a way that allows us to run a profitable and successful business and keep growing.
So, how successful has Bentley been since you started opening it here? I kind of feel like I've seen it in a lot of places. I've seen it in pictures. I've seen people smoking it in groups. I feel like it's doing well, but how is it doing?
Nowhere near as successful as it should be, or as it seems. But no, it's been very successful. We are we are growing at a purposeful rate. We're not trying to be the biggest cigar company out of the gate, nor is that the goal in the next 2 to 3 years. We have short-term and long-term goals, but really we're still in the launching phase of this. Um, y- you don't just open it up, and I think the brand name, since we have the trademark for the brand Bentley for tobacco products, I think that lends itself to having an image of being much bigger than what it is. We're a
Hmm.
small family-owned company. My partner Martin from Germany, Martin Schuster, he's a fourth generation cigar maker out of Germany. They make cigars in Germany. They're known for making premium short fill uh, cigarillos, and for 116 years. And he's my partner, and I'm independent with this. So it's him and I, and I'm a two-person team here in the United States. My very good friend Mike Wilson's my chief operating officer. I joke around, we all have crazy titles, but we don't have anybody underneath us. So we do everything. But the launch on it was, it's purposeful, it's small. We're in a little over 100 retail outlets. Out of those 100 retailers, I'll say probably 60% of them are very solid with us. And really that first push was to see, hey, where does the brand stick, and where does it kind of stand on its own, and with my reputation in the business. So we had a very busy first 6 months of the year. We spent a lot of money on traveling. We spent a lot of money getting into the PCA show and making that effort. And it was very successful. And we spent the last few months reassessing where we're at, getting the budget set up for where we're going to end the year and start next year with, and then kind of regroup and ramp back up for the PCA show again next year. So I would say everything's going as planned. There hasn't been a lot of surprises in it, and there's the expansion's not as big as it could be, just simply because the nature of the size of our business. As I said, we're a small family owned, two partners, myself and Martin, and we got a very small team of people that do that execute this. And here in the United States, the team is just two of us, and the goal was to solidify a strong group of retailers, and we have. It didn't have to be 300 or 400, and then go from there. And you just build on top of successes. And the main purpose for that is if you try to get too far ahead of yourself, you leave things behind that you really worked hard for. So I'm trying to be I'm trying to be with Bentley very strong in the places that we are in, identify the partnerships initially that are very strong and nurture and grow those, and then build us up to a point where we can then nurture and grow more retail partnerships. So that's really where we're at. And as I said, we have a 4 phase rollout here, and we're just entering phase 2. So phase 3 comes in 2026, and then phase 4 is really 2027. So we're very young. It's been less than a year here in the United States, and it's going really well. I would say it's been a great success so far. Certainly recognition wise, and certainly brand identity, it's been good. It's just we getting to the point now where we're starting to tell more of the story, and is that nurturing those existing relationships we have and putting ourselves in a position to not leave any of those relationships behind and still be able to nurture those as we add new.
Now, obviously, you kind of have a little bit of an advantage, and I say a little bit because it's still freaking hard as hell, right? But it's definitely a little bit of advantage that you know a lot of the major retailers across the country. Were when you called them and told them what they were doing, were they open arms? John, anything you put out, brother, come in, or were they kind of like, oh, okay, well, let's kind of. Did you have to sell them, or were they more like, come on in, let's see what you can do? Does that make
I'll
sense?
tell you, yeah, yeah, 100%. I mean, I'll tell you
And
the
Martin.
retailers the retailers are very supportive. 2025 has been an interesting year to launch a new company because it's a down year in the premium cigar industry overall, because we had a crazy 5 year run with all the COVID years and whatnot. So for me, everything's growth right now because it's all new and there's nothing really to compare it against. But to answer your question on that, I it is an advantage. I've been in the premium cigar industry now for 16 years, and it is an advantage just knowing people and knowing how to get a hold of them, or
Sure,
knowing people that
sure.
can help you get a hold of people. But you got to pick and choose the right times and places to get a hold of them. I'm sure there's some people that I've done business with over the years that are, that I haven't had a chance to talk to yet, that I will, just because of time. But I'll be honest, you from the very beginning, you find out who is really supportive of what you were
Mm-hmm.
doing,
Mm-hmm.
um, because there's a handful of retailers that jumped on board with me, and I'll name some of them here because
Yeah.
I really appreciate it. Smoke Inn was one of them. For me, Corona Two Guys Smoke Shop has been big for me. There's a retail shop in Pennsylvania called Cigar Mojo that does phenomenal business with me. A spot in another one in Pennsylvania called Smoke Rings and Cigar Box in Hazleton area in the Lehigh Valley. Um, I hope I'm not leaving anybody out. Cigars on the Avenue here in Orlando. Uh, you find out really quick who really supported 100% without question what you were doing,
Mm-hmm.
because those people that I named were, and I said, as many I'm probably leaving off the list, but those are the ones that stand out right in my head, mainly because you got Smoke In on your advertisement there. But those are ones that I mentioned that were like, yeah, we're going to support no matter what you're doing, and we're behind it, and they were behind it no matter what, and I really appreciate that, and they made that personal too, where they were like, hey, we're in no matter what you're doing, and if this you say this is your thing, then we'll do it, and I'll tell one story about Abe at Smoke Inn. He had called me because this was probably in like December uh, of last year. And he called me one night and he was like, hey man, he goes, why have we not talked about Bentley yet? And I said, well, I'm kind of waiting to see, I go, what we're doing with the business. And at this point in time, we hadn't incorporated the Bentley Tobacco USA company yet. So I was just kind of working with it as a contractor at the time. And we did incorporate it in December when Abe and I talked. And he's like, if this is what you're doing and you're in and you're an owner of this, he's like, I'm in and I'm going to support it no matter what. So you really find out right off who's supporting you because of you, or who is supporting you because of the brand you were with. Um, but that doesn't mean others aren't supportive of it by
Hey,
any
Brandon.
means. But those are examples of people that just jumped in real quick, and then it also helps. You know, three of the places that I named are right here in Florida, so I live
Yeah.
here. So that's a that's a confidence thing as well, where they can make that decision. But you find out real quick who is who really means uh, what you're saying. So what they're saying. So it was really special to see that. I appreciate those people that do it and that have supported it in that way. And I also appreciate people that are just waiting and running their businesses the way they're running it. I'm not judgmental of people that didn't jump in like that, nor should someone have to jump in just like that. But those ones that did have been really big, really means a lot to me, and I hope to get back to that. But yeah, it is slightly bit of advantage, but you still got to have something at the table, right? There's you got to bring something to the table. So even though I can make a phone call or I can eventually get in touch with somebody relatively easily, I've got to have an opportunity to opportunity and have brands that make sense, and my product and my company must make sense to them in that time. So it's
And it's got to
it's still a
sell.
challenge
It's
with it,
it's
but
it's got
yeah,
to sell.
100%.
You
Yeah.
got it. Anytime you play off your reputation, your background, your networks, oftentimes you get one opportunity to prove that that was the right decision for them to make. And if your cigar was terrible, that decision they would have pulled out. If your cigar didn't sell, so they're taking a risk, but you're also taking a risk because you're now risking potentially a networking deal or a friendship potentially for people getting, so
Huge.
that's also kind of played a thin line of like do I want to make sure that this goes good before I have a good friend of mine take it in his shop and then he has to tell me it doesn't work.
Yeah, and when you have part of the reason why I haven't you only got one opportunity sometimes to make those phone calls too. You'll make the
Hmm.
phone call, you sit down. You have to be in a spot as a business where like I don't want to be back ordered on something. Like I don't want to be out of product. And if you open too many places, you might go back ordered and then they may be selling something else. So I'm um, trying to grow with the network that we have and see how big we can become with them, and then grow as we can, and then as we create more revenue, invest that back in the business, produce more cigars, and then grow into more retail outlets. So, so I haven't made a lot of those all of those phone calls yet. And I said, when you do make them, you got to be in a position to be able to have the retailer or the partner that you're working with be able to bring the brand in and actually be able to stand behind it at the same time too. So that's where I say the 4 tier process. There's different tiers and different avenues that I'm going to be expanding in different markets and different partnerships that I will. And I will say the one that's going to probably be the most rewarding is when there's someone that won't take the phone call. When they call me up because they have interest in the brand, that's the most rewarding out of all of it,
Sure.
because that's happened a little bit even on the short term already, where there's been people that I've been trying to get a hold of and we just don't, and then all of a sudden they're like, hey, I got to bring this in because I've heard somebody mention this and somebody wanted it. That's very rewarding, and there'll be more of that as we grow and we go further down the line, where if we make this a brand that's very recognizable, respected for the brand name, respected for the reputation, respected for what went into the blending and the manufacturing. That'll be very rewarding to venture into to retail outlets that didn't give us the time of day.
Sure, sure. And one of the things I've heard Abe say a lot to that he's talked about when he's had conversations with younger brands is the ability to produce the amount that somebody like him could sell online. So
Mhm.
obviously, how did you make sure you're securing without being on back order? Because I don't think I've seen you on back order. If you
I
have,
had I had a little back order. I had a little back order about 2 weeks ago,
oh,
and to be really
that's
honest,
nothing.
how I handled it is, man, I just stopped opening accounts. I wouldn't open accounts. I stopped soliciting business. I scaled back events significantly with Bentley over the last month because I in preparation for it. Because I was like, if I get one order from one of these retailers, I'm not going to be able to ship it because I
Yeah.
didn't have it. So that's how I avoided it. It was just I analyzed it, I saw it coming, I prepared for it, and I scaled way back. I took several steps back, and it worked out really well. Because part of what I've been pitching and part of how I want to build this is I don't want to run out of cigars, and I
No,
certainly don't want to run out of cigars because I opened too many accounts. Because the people that did bring this brand in so far in our very young, stages of this business, uh, you know, I pitched that, and that's my reputation. And a lot of what I do, and I think what's made me known in this business is I don't think there's maybe there's some people that feel this way. I think there's way less that do. I think it's overwhelmingly in a positive way, but I don't screw people. I'm selling a reputation. If you're going to work with me, I'm going to find a way to make things work. I'm going to find a way to sell product. I'm going to find a way to make you whole, one way or the other. So I'm never going to put something in and run away, or I'm never going to put in a brand and work with you on it and then put it somewhere that's going to be damaging to you. And by damaging, I mean not just being heavily discounted somewhere, but
I was gonna say
if I can't provide enough cigars for you to do business with me in your store, why would I be opening other ones? So I don't ever want to open an account at the expense of my existing accounts that are really supportive of what we're doing.
now. Are you guys gonna take the brick and mortar approach as being the first and foremost loyalty, or are you guys gonna go after the online shops only? Sometimes too.
No, we're really heavily focused brick and mortar.
That's what I figured.
Um, yeah, I don't want to come out and say, hey, we don't sell it online because a lot of the brick and mortar stores that I
No,
work
I'm
with
talking about
are
a place
massive,
that's
are massive
strictly.
online retailers. Yeah, no, I if I no, I don't have a lot of interest in only strictly online cigar retail business. If you do see our products on an online website, it's generally a 10 times out of 10 almost. I'd say 99% of the time, it's someone that has a strong brick and mortar presence as
Hmm.
well.
Hmm.
And the prices are very competitive. They're not discounted heavily. And that's very easy to police, especially
Sure.
being small. You can keep it that way. So yeah, no, we're quality over quantity. Everybody says that, but I truly am. My goal with this in the next 5 years is about 350 to 400 accounts max, and that's kind of going to be the ceiling. If we can get to that, phenomenal. I'd even be happy with 250 to 300, if everybody's very happy with what we're doing and we grow and become a big part of what they're doing. So no, I'm looking for uh, work smarter and harder at the same time. But working smarter and harder is let me have a smaller footprint, service that smaller footprint bigger, and then as you grow into it, you can add more.
Yeah, you don't have to have a massive footprint to be successful in this. You have to be able to dedicate yourself to a couple hundred shops, grow within those shops, and you could be a fairly good. I mean, not. I don't think there's a single. Well, there's probably the legacies, but there's how many shops in this country on average, John? If you had to guess,
Or how many retail stores?
yeah,
Oh man,
3,000 maybe.
well, if you add everybody that sells like premium cigars, I mean, there's tens of thousands probably.
I'm talking about legit
In terms
cigar
of
shops.
in terms of what we consider as cigar smokers, like
Yes.
the unspoken what we consider cigar shops,
Hmm.
there's probably 3,000 that I would say that are really high quality. And by high quality, I mean a local smoke shop that has a little sitting lounge or a nice in and out spot. I'd say there's probably 3,000 really solid places that we would classify as as high quality premium cigar focused retail outlets.
And say you hit those 3,000, that brings in itself a whole new set of challenges and torments and stresses. So just because a lot of people don't understand, just because you're in a ton doesn't mean you're successful. It's about the repeat business. It's about the growth within the shop. Are they actually ordering more? Are their patrons buying your stuff? You can be just as successful in 100 shops sometimes as people are in 300 shops if they're
You
selling
can, and
enough.
I'll tell you I think a lot of people would be surprised that if you take some of these really large companies that are in the premium cigar industry and you look at how many retailers they're in, say, let's say a company like General Cigar, say they're in probably 5,000 retail outlets. I don't know what they do, but let's say they have 5,000 retail outlets and they do, um, you know, they average $10,000 per store. That's $50 million. Now, I'll tell you, 80% of that business is coming from literally from 20%. The 80/20
Oh
rule is
yeah,
very real in the
yeah.
premium cigar industry. So, in my opinion, is if you can get a smaller footprint, I'm not general by any means, but if you're a smaller brand and you can have a bigger
Not yet.
footprint in a smaller space, you can actually have a very big impact because you could go from say an average of 5 to 10,000 per retailer and maybe go 15 to 20 on average. And it's just you're in less places. So, if you do $10,000 a year and you're in 200 stores, that's $2 million. So that's not chump change. It's a good little business. And
Absolutely.
if you go to from 10 to, if you go from 10 to 20,000, that's 4 million. So your averages are higher. It's like buying stocks or Bitcoin.
Mhm.
It's your average cost of the stocks. If you buy, you say you buy 100 shares at $1,000, and then you buy another 100 share, you buy 50 shares at $1,000, then your average goes down, right?
Correct.
So the way I'm trying to play it is, by the way, this is great. I generally don't have this deep business discussions on anything like this, and this is a really real side of the business. I want my
Absolutely.
average, I want my average per store number to be higher.
Of
So
course.
yeah, so if I'm down to like, I got a retailer that's doing like $1,500 a year, um, that may not be a good place to be growing with, or if they're only going to be able to buy. I'm not saying have to buy a lot, but if they're only going to buy one or two boxes, that's probably not a place where I'm going to be able to grow with,
Mm-mm.
unless we have a real discussion about it. Because there are some spots that said, "Hey, we're going to start with 2 or 3 boxes," and now they've gone up to, they're buying 20 or 30 every few months.
Yeah,
So,
foot in the
um,
water is
you know,
fine, but having 2 or 3 boxes be the only size order they do after months and months and months, that's probably not the best one to grow with. If you want every reorder to hopefully be half a box to a box higher, right? Am I wrong on that?
Yeah, you want to have some incremental growth, and sometimes there's places that you go into with a smaller footprint because it's just the place you want to be in. There's some high end hotel properties that have like cigar lounges and
Sure,
things.
sure.
Sometimes you want to just have a presence,
Yep.
so you do things
That's a
like that. But
marketing thing
um,
though.
yeah, but yeah, being a small company, just to be fair, to be fair to the retailers that you're working with too, it's not fair to them to have one or two boxes and have that. It doesn't make sense because if you can't provide the support, I'm not going to be able to provide the same level of support I would for one or two boxes as I would for someone
Mhm.
that's doing 10 or 20. So it just makes sense. So the law of averages when you're starting a company is very important, and I think it needs to be the main focus rather than quantity of stores that being in,
Mhm.
what quality you get from the quantity that you have. So I have no issue having a smaller quantity. And honestly, right now, we're probably going to scale back slightly. And part of it's intentional where we put it out. Let's see some of the stuff, some of the products had to stand on its own. I know, for example, I have some retailers that I have very close relationships with that we will do great business with that I haven't had the time just because there's only 24 hours a day to spend with them that I should. And I know when I talk to them about the brand, they're going to say, well, it hasn't done well for us, this and that. And my response back to them will be, well, we haven't done anything yet. We really just put the brand in there and kind of see where it had legs. Let's give it another shot and let's start putting, now that I have more time, let's start putting some effort behind it. And then you really start to see where it goes. So yeah, I prefer, I prefer less accounts, but have a bigger footprint in it. And then you can
Yeah.
grow more successfully and you're more established when you do grow.
And that's also kind of a sales strategy, right? Don't ever be afraid to take something off the table. So if you're going to scale back, beef everything up, and then all of a sudden FOMO comes in for some other shops. They're like, oh, well, I considered this months ago, but he's not even opening shops anymore. I wonder, like, but I've seen him grow. So that also could be mentally kind of a good strategy as a business person too, because you're showing the growth, you're showing the success of it, but you're
Hmm.
also limiting the amount of shops you could be in. You could be pickier. It'll give you the ability to be pickier versus just grasping at anybody that wants to come in that probably wouldn't be the best play. Does that make sense?
Well, and then you can treat them fairly. You know, a lot of the
Correct.
comments that I hear with the issues with larger companies as they grow is I don't get the same attention that I used to get, or they only care about the dollar or this and that, and I'm just a number in a spreadsheet. And that's fine because those businesses are huge, they make big money. I never wrong a company for operating that way. It's just a different mentality. And I hope in everything that we do at Bentley and with Hoot and Young, and we'll get into that a little bit
Hmm.
later. But I hope everything that we do stays focused on the retailer experience and focused on the consumer experience with that retailer and our brand. And that's really what we're at in right now is we expanded quite a bit out of that. You have a lot that stick. We are going to work with them as hard as we can to continue to have that stick and have those successes we have. And then in some spots, we'll just say, hey, you know, it worked. You had it. We appreciate it. When we're able to grow it more and I'm able to spend more time on it, I hope you're willing to sit down with me. And if you say you are, then I'll make good on my word. I don't know. It's been real popular lately that the Savannah bananas
Yeah, they're
and
everywhere.
the guy Jesse Cole. He's written a bunch of books, but he's really fan driven and consumer
Hmm.
driven,
Hmm.
and that was what he was about. He's like, I'm just trying to add an extra fan every day. And when they first launched, they tried to be a little bit of everything for everybody in terms of um, the the baseball. They had a minor league baseball team that they bought essentially, and then that's when they started creating the Savannah Bananas. And they started small. You know, they scaled back and said we need to focus on small areas, and they created something really unique. And it was always driven on the experience and what they were able to provide. And as they've grown, they've maintained that to the best of their ability. And I think they've done a great job. And I just finished reading one of his books. And that's really where I'm at right now with what we're doing with the brands that I've got is how do we enhance the experience of the people that are crazy about us and really happy with us and working with us, and how do we make that even better in those locations, and then when we do master that, then we move on to the next and duplicate what we've done in those other environments, and it takes time, and you can try to spread yourself thin, but I've found what's working best for me right now is to try to become as focused as possible on the spots that the brand is working and nurturing and making those thrive and then growing outside of that as we can.
Yeah, and it's and again, it's been successful. I see it everywhere. I see the people posting about it. And Chris actually says here that he hasn't had the ability to snag one yet, but will try one. It's on his radar. Chris, just jump over to Smokin right now. They've got the whole assortment of Bentley, and you can order 5 packs from them. Order boxes. I can tell you, as somebody that's had the white and the green, they are 100% box worthy, each of them. So definitely do yourself a favor and order some. Um, I wanted to. There's a question that I wanted to ask you, and I was just curious. Why not Carney family cigars? And I'm just throwing a name out there. Like why not? Why bring a brand in versus start your own? And I think I know your answer. I'm just curious.
So when I left LFD in July of last year, July 1st, I wasn't quite sure what was next. That's why it was, you know, I had this little leadership website with my dad that was kind of a hobby for him and myself. And we still do it. We do our leadership newsletters called Shoulders of Giants,
Yep.
sogiants.com. You can check it out if you want. But I was like, what am I going to do? Because I didn't really have what was next on the table, to be honest. I knew whatever I did next had to be for my own. I was done working for people. I was going to start working either for myself or with people. Because when you work with people, that's working for yourself. You have your own business. So I was like, the next step needs to be my own business. And I need to have creative control and decision making over everything that I'm doing. And I was like, what's next? So I'll be honest, I was never planning on leaving the cigar industry. I took a short little hiatus, but I was working things behind the scene, and I was working on test blends with a couple different manufacturers, and I was like, I don't know what I'm going to call it. I was looking for some investors, and I had some lined up. But in that process, Martin Schuster had reached out to me because we had had a relationship for about 12 years prior to that, as he used to distribute LFD for us in Europe. So we'd known each other. And he reached out and said, I've got an interesting, proposal for you. I'm not sure if you'd be what you're looking at doing because it seems like you have a lot going on, which I threw everything I could off the wall to see what stuck. And fortunately, kind of everything stuck. The little burger restaurant I was doing stuck. The Shoulders of Giants thing stuck. The website AI chatbot building service and website design stuff stuck. So I had to find out what was working, and I was like, I don't know what I'm going to call. When I started talking to Martin, I said, Martin, I am looking at maybe doing my own brand. I go, but I don't know what I would call it. And I go, you own the trademark for friggin' Bentley for tobacco products. And I said, that seems like a pretty damn good start to me. So why don't we roll the dice and see how it kind of works out? And that's the gist of kind of, it was much deeper
Well,
conversation than that,
sure,
but that's
yeah.
really the gist of it. Was, hey, that's a pretty good start. So I was like, I think that's good because I don't know if Carney family cigars, and it was
Well,
another
yeah.
conversation I had with. Well, it was funny because I was talking to Abe about it too. I was like, Abe, I go, I don't know if Carney Cigars is a good thing. He goes, dude, he's like, don't say that it's not. He's like, when Rocky Patel came out, he's like, I thought that was a terrible name too. He goes, and look what he goes, damn, was I wrong with that? And I was like, yeah. He goes, so you never know. I go, but I do know that that brand Bentley, and the trademark goes back to 1968, and then Martin's family history in the business, for 4 generations, 116 years was. I was like, you know what? I think that's something that I want to be a part of, and I think that would give me uh, an additional head start on the creative process and alleviate some of the other challenges of getting a business going. And it has, there certainly is challenges with everything from a day-to-day basis, but a lot of those have been eliminated because he'd been working on his brand for almost 20 years. So it's great to have him bring me into it. It was great. It's great to be part of it, and I'm really proud to have my name as being part of that as well.
So, where does Hooten and Young come in?
So this is pretty cool. So I'm lighting up the white. So that cigar lasted about 45 minutes, the green.
And I'm
So
almost done with mine.
so for people that aren't familiar with Hoot and Young, um, if you follow me at all on social media, it's pretty obvious I'm very heavily involved in it. So it's a company that started in 2018. It was founded by a gentleman named Norm Hooten. He's a retired Special Forces Delta operator, Master Sergeant, and he uh, he was depicted in the movie Black Hawk Down by Eric Bana's character in there. His name was Hoot in the movie, and he started a company with a friend of his named Tim in 2018. And the reason behind it was after every mission that Norm was on, they'd smoke a cigar, and the Operation Gothic Serpent that happened in 1993, they never got to have a cigar after that one. The main reason why it was one of the most deadly special forces operations in the history of the United States Special Forces. And he 25 years later, they commemorated the men that lost their lives in that mission by sharing cigars together, the people that were on that mission. And so he made some cigars with a gentleman based out of Orlando here. He owns a company called Cordoba and Morales, who's our manufacturing partner at Hoot and Young, and a great friend of mine for the last 15 years. He had he had a inkling that this cigars that he had made just to commemorate this probably should turn into a business, because people were like, this is something really special to commemorate this. You really ought to get involved in the cigar business. And they were also working on whiskey at the time too. So in 2018, Hoot and Young's Whiskey and Cigars was started. So how I got involved was a gentleman that served on the Gothic Serpent mission with Norm. Was from my town in Lincoln, Maine, little town of 2,500 people. His name was Master Sergeant Gary Gordon. He was a Delta operator as well, and he died on that mission. And he was my hometown hero growing up. So I met Norm in like 2020, 2021 at an event here in Orlando, and I said to my dad was Gary's teacher and football coach,
Wow.
and I said, should I go meet this guy and tell him the story of Gary? He's like, yeah, 100%. He's like, I think he will really appreciate it. And he goes, trust me, he will know him. So I introduced myself and I said, I'm currently with another cigar company. I go, but if you guys ever need help, let me know. And we hung out for a couple hours and he told me some great stories. He's just a great guy. And I'm like, man, I go, what a cool thing. So fast forward of in 2024, I was trying to figure out what my next steps were going to be in the cigar industry, and I'd run into Norm's business partner Tim at the time, and he just happened to be in a cigar shop and we started talking. And I said, I don't know what you guys got going on, but I go, I'm not really in the business right now. I was working with Bentley on kind of a consignment, kind of a test level to see kind of how it would work towards the end of the year. And I said, I'd be willing to help you on a consulting basis and whatnot. So, long story short, with that, a new ownership group came in, and coincidentally, the new owner's last name was Young. His name's Don Young, and they bought all the other owners out of the company and brought Norm Hooten back full time because Norm at the time was working for the VA as a pharmacist. He's a doctor of pharmacy, and after a very illustrious military career, and he came back and he retired in January, and I was like, let me see where this is going, and the new ownership group, and headed by Norm. Their family's all involved in it. Norm's son's getting involved in the business. Don's family's involved in it, and they come from a very strong business background that just has great vision, and it really aligned with a lot of what my vision is for things. And we started working together heavily in January, but I started working with Hooten Young in October, and then it morphed into something much more than what we expected. So, my business um, with it was, I said, this has got a lot of opportunity. So I talked to Martin, my partner at Bentley, and I said, I also have this going on at the same time. So, I'm the common denominator between Bentley and Hooten Young. They're not related. The only reason they have any type of relation at all is just through me. I'm not a face of Hooten Young by any means. Obviously, I have a reputation in the cigar business, so I, by default, am very associated with it, as you can see on social media. So that's, yeah, it's something that's unique to the cigar world. But in the rest of the world, it's Norm Hooten is the face of what we're doing here, and it's all about moments that are made to remember. Every cigar has a story and a purpose, and it just turned into a great opportunity. And they're a great group of people, and it was too good of an opportunity to not be a part of. So I focused all my time on Bentley and Hooten Young, and coincidentally, the brands really don't interfere with each other in two very different lanes. But also coincidentally, at the same time, I'm growing really with a new ownership group. I'm growing a new business there as I'm growing a new business with Bentley. So I do, everything I do every day is pretty similar. It's just for two different types of brands. At Hooten Young, I have a lot of control over development of products. At Bentley, we have a very developed brand and a very distinct brand image. At Hooten Young, we're really developing our projects and what those things are going to look like. And there's a lot of fun things that we get to do. And we have a great marketing team as well. We have a lady named Courtney Teakle, who's been with them from the very beginning, who's involved in our marketing department. She does all the marketing and advertising, and okays all the fun graphics and stuff that I make and different projects. And it's just a really good team, and it's great to be a part of it. And as I said, it's part of what I'm doing. And I said what I'm selling and what I've carved out as my niche in the premium cigar industry has been, a reputation of doing things that are right for the retailer, right for the consumer, and right for the companies that I own. So they've invited me into the company, and it's been a great 8-9 months with them, and the future's very bright. But that's the short story of kind of how I got involved with Hooten Young. And I said I couldn't be more proud to be part of both companies, and be doing both of these at the same time. And I think they align very nicely with each other, and they're separate in the right ways. And And I said, just the pride I have for doing the work that I do at both of these is something I've never experienced in my career.
Yeah, so you have ownership stake in both, or are you essentially running one and then own Bentley?
Yeah, I have equitable stakes in both of
Yeah,
these companies.
that's what I thought. That's what I thought.
Yep.
So it's not like you got brought in to do distribution and do it like that, but you were brought in to maintain and grow the brand similar to how you're doing with Bentley.
Yeah, absolutely. And I said that the big difference between what I do at Bentley and what I do at Hoot and Young is we're in the Hoot and Young thing, we're very involved in the development of the brand, as what it looks like. New products, innovations with that. In Bentley, we have I said that the Bentley brand's been being worked on for over 20 years. So we have a very distinct guide map essentially that we use for how we operate Bentley in regards to the brand image, with that. So it's a difference of a brand that's been around for 20 and a brand that's been around for 5 or 6, where we're establishing. Hoot Young's got a very strong brand recognition and very strong brand direction. But in terms of the development of products, what products make the most sense for consumers and retail outlets, we're really developing a lot of those things currently right now, and you'll see it with new projects that we have coming out, where we're tapping into different parts of the premium cigar market, different retail outlets, different distribution outlets. So there's a lot of differences in both, but there's a lot of similarities because at the end of the day, I'm executing premium cigar companies.
Now, just because a shop has Bentley doesn't mean they're going to have Hoot and Young, or Hoot and Young doesn't mean they're going to have Bentley, right? Or are you trying to
No,
push them
nor
both?
are they. Nor are they required. I don't pitch it that way. The It's very obvious for the people that I work and talk with. Everyone knows that I'm involved in both, and I do talk about both. When I do business with people, but there's some spots that I go and do business with where it's just Hoot and Young, where I talk only Hoot and Young, and this is positioned for you. And if they have interest in what I'm doing with Bentley and they want to hear about it, I'm very willing to talk about it. And if that aligns, but I'm very honest and very transparent when I work with places, that I tell them, hey, this is how I would align this with you, and I don't blur the lines with it, but there are spots that carry both absolutely 100%. There's spots that carry Bentley and then they carry Hoot and Young because I'm involved in it, and then vice versa. There's places
Sure.
that carry Hoot and Young and then they see that I'm have something else going on and they express interest in it. So um, it's it's a very positive relationship, and as I said, it doesn't they don't really interfere with each other, which is excellent. And I said they're very obviously two very different types of products. They just happen to both be cigars, but they're very different lanes for it, and it works out really really nicely. And I think it's almost perfect, to be honest, because I look at it and I'm like, if I had something that was closer to both, you know, it'd be like if I had Davidoff and Ashton, and then all of a sudden now I own Bentley, or now I'm running Bentley. You see some conflicts there because there would
Yeah.
be some competitive things where you look at that. The luxury aspect of both of these brands is that they're premium cigars, but they're both positioned very differently in the premium cigar market. And honestly, I think the brand appeal of Hoot and Young initially is much bigger. I think there's a bigger footprint. We're a whiskey and cigar company, so we
Hmm.
do business in a lot of liquor stores. So we have products that are designed at Hoot and Young to be in liquor stores, and grab and go type occasions where what I'm doing with Bentley is very much a smaller footprint where we're looking for a small amount of like marquee retail models where it's a sit down lounge, and Hoot and Young works in that environment also. So I think there's more crossover for the Hoot and Young brand than there is for the Bentley, than that direction. Um, but they do very much do benefit each other. To be very honest with you, there's a lot of retail partners that hadn't carried Hoot and Young that do a lot of business with me at Bentley that now do Hoot and Young because of our involvement in it and what we've shown that we can do with that. So it's a great fit. And if you look at companies in the cigar industry, all these companies have multiple brands underneath them. There's General Cigar has Cohiba, Hoy de Monterey, CAO. There's endless amounts of brands underneath these companies. The only difference here is there are two separate companies, and the common denominator is me.
So then how difficult is it to have 2 different ownership groups and to be able to work like, and I guess so that's the first question. How difficult is it to deal with 2 ownership groups? And then the long-term vision of this question, part 2 of it is, do you ever see a point in time where they blend under a single ownership group?
Hey, good question. I'll answer the second part uh, first. Yeah, I hope so. I hope there's a time where they blend. To be honest, I'm putting a lot of effort into both of these things, and as I see them not interfering, maybe in the future there's a spot where where it does work together in some capacity, whether it's a distribution type thing. I mean, I distribute both brands out of the same facility, so there's already some connections with that. And there's other brands distributed out of the facility I distribute out of as well. But yeah, I would say that if both of these things take off really well, there's a way for both companies to collaborate with each other. There's already ownership collaboration because I have ownership of Bentley in a significant matter, in a significant way. So there's already some blending of it just naturally, except with the connection of me. So there already is some working together just naturally. Now we don't sit down and I said I'll be very transparent. We don't sit down and strategically make decisions at Hoot and Young based off of what's going on at Bentley or
Correct.
vice versa. That they're very separate. I said I'm the only common connection,
But you would be
and
open for a single ownership
yeah,
over
or a
both.
single
Yeah,
distribution licensing agreements.
sure.
There's anything that could go on with that. And if something were to make sense, I would look at that because there's already a connection there
Sure, sure.
naturally. So to say no would be wrong. Whether that happens or not, doesn't really have a major impact. But as these things grow, naturally there may be things that make sense to work together a little bit deeper beyond that. So yeah, I mean, it would be a lie to say that that wouldn't be something that would be a possibility since it's already technically happening because of me being connected. But they operate entirely autonomous. They're not even remotely related. It said the only common connection's me. So the it's like Amazon, for example, obviously on a much bigger scale, but Jeff Bezos' connection to Amazon and then Jeff Bezos' connection uh, to the space program. Amazon's not running the space program. The common connections, Jeff Bezos. Those are two
Correct.
different industries, but there's a common connection. So yeah, I'll answer the second part. So there's that answer to the second part. Um, so yeah, there's a natural connection. Uh, what was the first part of the question?
How hard has it been to work with 2 ownership teams that obviously with 2 ownership teams you got 2 ownership visions?
Yeah, yeah. I'll say I'm a very big thinker.
Mhm.
So I stay very focused on the moment, but I also think very big. And I think the thing that makes both ownership groups very unique and which allow it to be not as challenging is both companies I'm involved in are big thinkers and very focused on the moment at the same time. So we don't get outside of if we have big thoughts, um, that's a big picture thinking, but we still stay focused on the moment. I'll say both companies are very focused that way. And part of that's me being involved in the entity of it, but I'll say from the top down, from the majority owners too, it's very much similar. And the visions, as they are separate, are all share similarities. So the similarities that they share are respect in terms of the way the companies are led, respect, strong leadership skills, valuing what's going on, valuing the teams that we have, valuing the partnerships that we're with, making the best decisions we can possible on business levels. So there's a lot of similarities on both sides, on both companies, and it's ultimately it comes down to leadership. So I would say juggling both isn't very difficult. I was having a discussion with one of the managing partners at Hoot and Young yesterday because they have other business ventures that are outside of premium cigars that they do as well. And I said, I go, you guys have a lot of unique things you bring to the table because of all the different businesses that you're involved in, and we adapt a lot of those things in Hoot and Young. And And I said, I go, it's like I kind of have it easy because I'm at least I have a couple companies, but I'm running them in the same industry. So what I do every day, if I post something on Instagram, you know, anything cigar related, that really benefits the premium cigar side of both businesses that I have. So it's part of what I'm doing in this business is selling me and selling my reputation, selling what I talked about earlier, where I feel like my focus is to make sure that I don't put anybody in a bad spot that we work with. So I said, I think for me, it's kind of easier because I'm in the same industry with both businesses, right? I'm not jumping around the different things. So, if anything, it allows us to make better decisions because I get to sit and look at, the impact on a large scale, impact on a smaller scale, and having brands that hit in different areas allows a unique view and a unique angle for me to kind of take on when we do make decisions. So I don't find it difficult at all, to be honest, to juggle both. I don't really consider it juggling. Um, that's why I said it's almost perfect where the brands don't really they really don't have any interference with each other other than their premium cigars. Like if I were to sit down and do like a competitor analysis for Bentley, when you do premium cigars, technically everybody is your competitor, but I don't put Hoot and Young as Bentley's competitor, and I also don't put Bentley as Hoot and Young's competitor. They're really brands that work kind of independently from each other in terms of a vision, and then as a companies, they obviously are very independent. So I think that makes it easy where the brands are so different, but in the same field, doesn't allow for too much. Sorry, doesn't create much confusion on my part. So I don't find a lot of heavy lifting with it. I find both companies uh to be very positive in the main ownership groups. So it's been great, to be honest. Like I said, I couldn't be happier with how both work out and kind of how they both align. And it's really unique to have that. I hadn't experienced that before in one company, let alone two. So now to be actual part of both of them is real special.
Well, I'll be upfront with you. I haven't smoked. I think I've only smoked one Hoot and Young cigar. So I really appreciate you being willing to send over a few. And I just don't see them in Colorado. Actually, the only Bentley place here in Colorado is Smoking Cave, in Highlands Ranch. And I don't think they carry Hoot Young. So I'm really excited to dive into the brand and dive into the blends. I've heard great things about them. I know I've seen, again, it's another brand. It's another newer brand. I'm seeing a lot of pictures posted. I'm seeing a lot of people smoking them. I'm seeing a
Mhm.
lot of good things about them. But
Well, we
let's.
were we were just yeah, we were just at Rocky Mountain Cigar Festival. So
Mhm.
Hoot and Young was the official
You weren't
liquor, one of
there.
the official liquor sponsors. No, I just had a baby,
I
so
know.
yeah,
I
I missed that
know.
because of the
I know.
baby. So we had Bentley was there and Hoot and Young was there, and unfortunately I didn't get to go out because of my kid, which is fine. I enjoy, obviously that was more important, but I did. It would have been nice, and I'm looking forward to next year to see both companies together at that show and seeing things that I put together and build be there. And but it was a great success,
I was to say, how
and
did that
we
show
will be.
turn out?
It was very good, and we will be expanding more in Colorado. The smoker-friendly
Mhm.
stores, Havana Manor's bringing the product in, so we'll have 4 or 5 retail outlets in Colorado within the next month with Bentley as well as with Hoot and Young. So yeah, it was a very successful festival, and we had a great time. So
So does that mean you're going to be out here doing some events?
yeah, we'll probably be out earlier in the year, first to second quarter 2026, and then I'll certainly be out for Rocky Mountain Cigar Festival again next year. And then in Hoot and Young wise, we also have whiskey in about 27 retail outlets out there in liquor stores. So you can find the Hoot and Young whiskey in Colorado.
Well, when you come out here for an event, please let me know. I'd love to have the opportunity to have you in studio. I think that'd be fun to do a live show with you
Oh
in
yeah,
studio.
100%, absolutely. Yeah, I'd love
S-
to.
So, what has so getting to just questions about you. Why? Why do this? Why not stayed where you were, and why take this risk? You got two kids. Like, obviously, for anybody that's been in sales a long time, it takes a lot of fucking confidence to be in sales as long as you have and to hit the level that you have. So the confidence level's there, but why go through this to make something for yourself versus staying where you were?
Well, I had the luxury. I worked with a tremendous brand for nearly 15 years, and they're a great family. And I really love the products. The cigars are great. Um, but ultimately, at the end of the day, whatever circumstances, you're building. I said earlier, I'll make it real simple. Working with and working for are very different,
Sure.
and uh, I love the Gomez family, the kids, Lito Jr., Tony, they're great people. Lito's a great guy, and he did a lot for me, and I wouldn't be where I am without that. But ultimately, I grew up in an entrepreneurial family. My dad owned three restaurants growing up.
Hmm.
He had all sorts, from the time I was a kid, he was running around with his head cut off. So that was in my blood. And I knew ultimately that what was going to make me happy long term, with short term pain, would be building something that I was really a part of, building something that was mine, and whether it was just a portion of it or whatnot. But I knew that it had to be whatever I was doing. It had to be something that I was really had full skin in the game. That was just who I was as a person and how I was brought up. And I knew it was kind of time to pull the trigger, and it wasn't really planned when it happened. To be real honest, I was content doing what I was doing, but through a bunch of different circumstances that I won't get into, it escalated to being like, hey, this is the time for me to do this, rip the band-aid off, and see what's next. And if you don't try and you don't take that risk, then you're never going to know what's on the other side. Now you don't have to do it, and I don't recommend people um, aimlessly just take a big risk like that.
Yeah,
And
not everybody's
it,
designed to be a business owner.
yeah, and by the way, I'll tell you, you don't even the people that are designed to do it. There's not there's stress involved in it,
Very
and
much.
you're growing into it, so there very much is. So I don't have any lack of respect for people who aren't business owners. I very much respect
Sure.
people that enjoy that clarity of getting a paycheck and whatnot, and working hard for that as well. I just knew for me long term, 10, 15, 20 years down the road, if I didn't do it and I didn't take the risk and I didn't read the writing on the wall, that I was just going to continuously be not content in what I'd done. So timing was timing wasn't perfect, but it worked out. And for me, where I'm at now is a way better place than I was a year and a half, 2 years ago, mentally, personally, professionally. And the sky's the limit with where I'm going with it. So when you control your own destiny and then you have great partners at the same time, it amplifies that confidence too. So I'm not risk averse. I'll try to take it as it comes. Just because it seems like I handle it well doesn't mean I do. And I'll tell you, most people don't. So what goes on inside is very different than what people see on the outside. And but I've learned to like it, and it kind of fuels what you're doing, and it, it keeps the rewards at the end of the day uh, being much more, I guess for lack of a term, keeps the rewards being much more rewarding. So that for me is the big thing, is you know taking that risk, not being risk averse, changed who I am as a person. I've always been assertive, but I'm much more assertive in different ways now, because I have to be. So it's really opens up a different side of you, and I hope for me what this does long term, and I already am experiencing it now, shows me that, hey, this was the right decision for you. This is the way you were brought up, and it just brings me back to closer to kind of who I am.
Now I get to ask you one of my favorite topics to talk about on the show, which is mentors. And I think the previous question I asked you leads right into this because you mentioned Shoulders of Giants. And for those of you that don't know, Shoulders of Giants comes from a Sir Isaac Newton saying, "As if I've seen further, it's by standing on shoulders of giants." So that implies you believe in mentors. You believe in learning from others to better yourself, not going at it alone or blind, even though maybe sometimes you do, but you'd rather stand on somebody else's shoulders and learn from their success and their failures. Is that an accurate statement?
Yeah, huge. Um, it's interesting because I never felt like I've had mentors in my life, and people ask like, "Who's your mentor?" And I always answered, "I don't really have any. I kind of march to the beat of my own drum." And then, so Shoulders of Giants was a monthly newsletter that my dad's written for over 13 years, that he did through his career in the restaurant industry. Um, and I didn't realize until we started shouldersofgiants.com and we started publishing my dad's newsletters. So all the newsletters right now are all new. Okay. I also have 12 previous years of newsletters that haven't been released on Shoulders of Giants. So, hopefully my dad continues to live a long, very long life. But I have 12 years worth of material from that I haven't even used yet, that I will be utilizing. So when we started Shoulders of Giants, my dad said to me, he said, "This has been great." He's like, he goes, "I love it." He goes, "It gives me kind of re-energizes, his leadership skills." And what I realized in creating Shoulders of Giants, and if people are listening, you're probably picking up what I'm about to put down, is I realized that my dad was actually my mentor
Hmm.
this entire time. Where I was like, "Oh,
Hmm.
I didn't have one," but I'm like, "Wait a minute, yeah, I did." And as we started doing this project together, and I created the website, the chat bots, and all the graphics, and started publishing the newsletter, I started realizing, wait a minute, all along, this has kind of been my guide for what I've been doing. So that's been really special in that regard. And Shoulders of Giants will be something that we'll continue to do. It's the business services that we offer on there aren't really real any longer because I don't have the bandwidth for it, what I'm doing in cigars. But the newsletter will always be part of what we're doing, and I take a lot of the things that I did and intended to do with Shoulders Giants and use those in Bentley and at Hoot and Young every day, in terms of a technical side and business leadership and growth. But that was the biggest thing that I learned from that. I was like, I didn't have a mentor. I never had a mentor, and it was like, really, I did at the end of the day, and I noticed it as we started creating Shoulders of Giants.
So, define mentor as your definition.
I use the phrase knowing what your lane is a lot, for many things. I use it for brands. Like a brand needs to understand what its lane is and be great at doing what it's doing and be the best in that lane, right? Um, and I think for me, mentors are are a person or people that help you very clearly define what your lane is and who you are as a person and what you identify with. And I find with Shoulders of Giants, what I've done with this and from what my dad's created is it's really helped me identify who I am, what's important to me, what direction I go in, and how I operate. So I think that's the best thing a mentor can do for you. And it can happen in many different ways. It can happen through advice. It can happen through support. It can happen through prayer. It can happen through, dissent. Disagreeing with things, giving you, a
Healthy
devil's
pushback.
advocate. Yeah, and I think that's for me is what my dad's always done. My dad to this day, he'll find everything not wrong, but he'll find an opposite view on anything I give him a view on, even if he agrees. He just can't help himself. But I think that's what they've done is help me clearly define who I am and what direction I want to go in, and 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 who I am. And unfortunately, I think I have a lot of good skills that were passed down to me, but I think what's made me very successful the last year and what's going to make me successful much more going forward is that I have a very clear vision and direction of who I am and what decisions I make and how I make decisions. I think that's the most important thing a mentor can do is help you identify and understand what direction and who you are from the inside out.
And I agree. And I am a firm believer in mentors. It wasn't until I kind of had a similar experience. Like it wasn't until I was way older that I realized that, oh my gosh, this person in my life is a business mentor to. Because having a mentor is never one of those things where you're like, hey, I'm gonna bring you in as a mentee or like it's the best mentors happen naturally where
Mhm.
it's much more of a relationship and it just kind of becomes unsaid that like you look up to this person in a way. Kind of like what you did with your father. You didn't realize until working closely with you how much of an impact he had and guidance he was giving you this entire time. So I like that because oftentimes mentors have come in and out of my life. It always feels like kind of at the right time, and then they leave conveniently kind of at the right time, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
Um, but somebody that I've always the way I envision mentors is they can't have a financial stake in your life because now it's a business relationship. A mentor should be somebody like a parent that just wants the best for you
Mhm.
regardless of their own situation. And if they have an ownership in you, now they're going to be giving advice maybe from their own pocketbooks. Would you say that's a fair assessment?
Yeah, certainly. And it's just different forms of leadership because mentors are leaders for people.
Oh,
And
100%.
I use Hoot and Young for an example, and I'll use Bentley as an example too. I mean, the ownership groups, we're all leaders for each other. At Hoot and Young, we have an incredible group of leaders, and same thing at Bentley. But Hoot and Young, they're professional leaders. They're all veterans. They all came, they were all leaders in special forces regiments or officers, and so it's a really unique dynamic, but it's a different style of leadership because at the end of the day, it's leadership that's driven by a common goal of
Mhm.
being successful in business, right?
Correct.
So it's a different leadership, and there is mentorship in it. But ultimately, at the end of the day, you got to get the job done for the business. That
Mhm.
entity, the business entity itself, needs to succeed, and that's more important. Essentially, at the end of the day, it doesn't mean you can't adapt those things and you don't have mentors in that. But yeah, I'm with you. Like a true mentor for someone personally, doesn't have stake in anything you're doing outside of you.
Correct.
The stake they have in it's you. And it's the same thing with friendships. Friends can be
Yes.
mentors as well.
100%.
Yeah, my friends that I'm closest with um, are incredibly supportive of everything I'm doing because I'm involved in it, or I'm part of it. And whether it's good or bad, they're part of it no matter what. I was watching part of the Charlie Sheen documentary today on Netflix. By the way, it
Crazy.
was awesome.
Wild. Wild.
Wild,
Wild.
wild. It's really good too. But he had that one. He joked around. He said it was his one black friend, and that he joked around. I think the guy's name was Tommy Reed or something like that. And the guy made the joke. And anyway, he was great. And Charlie said that guy has been part of every decade of my life, and he's one of my closest friends, and he's always been there for me. But he's never. He goes. He was never part of the drugs I did. He was never part of this, but he was always there for me. And I thought that was such a unique thing. And when I was listening to it, I paused it and I started thinking of people like that in my lives who've been involved and invested in me. And I think that's the true mark of a mentor or
Mhm.
people that have mentor type mentality for you.
Mhm.
And I think people should find more of those people in their lives or and identify those. And you don't have to have a ton, just identify one. And if you don't, find people that you have that type of relationship with that are and not just aimlessly supportive. And I think Charlie Sheen even mentioned it there. He's like, he didn't support all the things that I was doing, but he always supported me, which
Mhm.
was a unique thing. And I think that's a big part of mentorship, and that's a big part of what Shoulders to Giants was built on, and and what my dad's instilled in that, and his vision with that is really guiding a lot of the things that I do now.
Yeah, and again, I love the topic of talk. I love talking with people about their visions of mentors because they've changed my life. Like I wouldn't be where I'm at business wise, financially without having somebody go, I wouldn't do that, and here's why. That piece of information is more valuable sometimes than the success it brings because you didn't fail and you
Hmm.
were able to move past. So, what I want to know from you is, um, give us an issue that you had that I like asking people about how they failed and been successful. So, give us a roadblock that you hit in Bentley or Hooten during this time frame that you had to overcome. How'd you do it?
Well, I'll tell you, man, we don't hit roadblocks in any of these businesses because there's only one speed. So if there's a roadblock, we drive through it and figure it out and clean up the mess after, on both sides. Um, Don Young at Hoot and Young always says he's like run until tackled. So that's kind of the mentality of both is it's like let's just go and until tackled. If you're not, and then when you're tackled, get back up and keep running again, and I'll tackle you again. So I wouldn't say necessarily roadblocks, but I will. Man, that's a good question. The I think patience is the biggest thing right now for me. Is how do I stay patient? I was having some conversations with some people today, and I was saying it would be really nice to snap my fingers and go 3 years forward in all the success that I envision us having, right? And get to that destination. I said, but if we did do that and we could skip ahead where I think it's going to be, I go, then it wouldn't be as rewarding when we got there, right? So I would say the biggest challenge that I face, and I would say that's a block for me and a challenge, is to be as patient as possible, understanding that everything that goes on and every situation that arises, whether it's a success or a challenge, is just a piece of the puzzle and a stop along the way. And I think it's important to not stop for too long and look at the scenery in that moment, because the scenery gets better as you keep going forward, in my opinion. So I would say for me that's the biggest challenge on a daily basis is to stay patient, understand that everything that we're doing is part of a bigger picture, and everything we're doing is essentially a chapter in a quest that we're on. So patience is, I think, is the biggest challenge that I have is understanding that everything we're doing now is part of something bigger, and and trying to see it that way every step of the way.
I love that. I love that because that's you also not wanting to skip through the trials and tribulations to get to the success because that will grow you as a business owner, as a business professional as well. And that's all valuable stuff along the way. The bumps and the scrapes, and you get back up and run through the wall again. I mean
Mhm.
that's kind of part of the fight of it. So I want to kind of pivot here. There's just some fun questions here as we're kind of wrapping up the
Sure.
show. What the hell do you do outside of working out? Because I see that's like the number one thing that people say to you online is, "Did you go to the gym today? Did you go to the gym today?"
Well,
Uh,
I'll tell you the reason why that comes up specifically from my friend Mike Sespinkevich from Cigar Hustler is I'm not in the gym as much as I used to be, and I'm getting back into it. So we'll start seeing it. I'm naturally a pretty big guy, and I can handle carrying around some weight, but I'm carrying around a little too much. So a lot of what you see now is the ball busting, or people that don't that know me from the last few years rather than knew me before. I used to be pretty jacked, and now I'm just a big guy with baby weight on. But I'm getting back in the gym, working back out quite a bit again, and so hopefully I'll get back to that. But yeah, go ahead,
So how does what do you do when you're not running Bentley and Hooten? What do you do outside of cigars?
man. Right now, there's not much other than that. To be very honest with you, other than watching my dogs run around, like right now, I got my little dog over here is going absolutely ballistic. She's going crazy. She's jumping off the deck. Um, but my family is a massive part of what we're doing. I got two kids, my wife, and we've done a lot of work recently at the house, and they've taken the biggest sacrifice of all of the things I got going on because from the moment I open my eyes to the moment I close it, there's work that I could be doing, and that I do. So right now, that's probably the biggest sacrifice is the sacrifice my family makes for us to build this. And they're really into this. My wife kicks ass with all that. I know we were talking a little earlier off the air about family dynamics, but I'm truly fortunate to have my wife and my family, and that's the biggest thing for me is when I'm outside of cigars. By the way, cigars are also my passion. Like I really enjoy sitting down and having a cigar with friends and on my own at the end of the night. And that is a big passion of mine too. So I happen to be my passion is also what I do for my career. But really, my big focus is my family cooking. I'm a huge fan of I'm a I guess I'm technically a professional chef because I get paid to cook sometimes, but I'm real passionate culinary wise, but it really revolves around my family. So, with all we have going on, most of what I do every day is very heavy work. I mean, I could work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, but I try. My next focus right after that's my family. So my family is my top focus. Work's very important right now, and they sacrifice a lot for what I'm doing in this vision. So I try to reward as much of that back in the times that I can. So we try to do a lot. My wife's very creative with family things we do. So, but my kids are young. My daughter's 4 and my son's 2 months. So it's outside of work. That's it.
Well, do you force yourself to take some time off, or does your wife force you to take time off?
Right now, I don't really take time off because everything I do is is going on no matter what. So 24 hours a day, if I'm up, there's something that could be going on in premium cigars, whether it's social media, whether it's making some artwork for something, for a new project. After we're done tonight, I'm going to sit down for about an hour, and I have tomorrow morning. I have my cigar team meeting with Hoot and Young every Friday. We have a morning cigar team meeting. So I have that in the morning. But what I do is I try to, at certain times during the day, step away from my computer and step away from my phone. So like I'll leave my phone in my office area and I'll take my Apple Watch off, so I'm not connected to any of that in that moment. So I take a few hours a day to disconnect from all of those things and be more present in certain moments. So those are efforts that I take in it because if I'm near my phone, I'm
You
working.
can't
If I'm
help
near
it.
my computer,
Yeah.
I'm not on. I'm never on my. I'm very rarely on my phone for pleasure. I'm very rarely on my computer for pleasure. If I'm on my phone, it's because I'm doing something for work. If I'm on my computer, it's because I'm doing something for work. So how I disconnect and take time away is to just leave those away from me.
Are you a reader at all? Do you read? What do you like to watch shows? What do you prefer to do more?
So it's funny. I'm not a big reader by any means, and I think the main reason I'm not is because everyone in my family is. My mom, my dad, my sister, my wife is a massive reader. My daughter loves to read, even though she can't yet. So I just grew up around it. So I was always wanting to do things they weren't doing. So I like to read. I just don't like to read books. Like sitting down and reading a book, my mind wanders and I'm thinking about 10,000 other things. So my mind's always working. So when I'm paying attention to something or focusing on it, I can't focus on it very long without my mind focusing and having other ideas and concepts and things pop into my head. So I have a challenging time. I have a challenging time focusing on reading. And I said I got so much going on that if I sit down and relax and getting a moment to sit and relax is kind of challenging. So probably I should read more, but no, I'm not a big reader in that regard. I just can't focus at that level. And then, but I do tons of reading. I
Oh
do a
yes, of
lot of
course. Yeah.
yeah, I do a lot of tons of industry
Industry
reading,
stuff. Yeah.
uh, yeah, industry stuff, news things, technology things. I do a ton of reading with that stuff, but yeah, sitting down reading for pleasure is not something I do. I am into a lot of shows. I don't have a ton of time for it, especially with a new kid. But my wife and I like to watch different series. I love Star Trek. Star
Hmm.
Trek's some of my favorite stuff. The new Star Trek, Strange New Worlds, is incredible. So I'm a big fan of that. So I enjoy that kind of stuff. I kind of have a guilty pleasure lately. I've been watching American Gladiators on Amazon Prime when I work out.
The old ones.
So that's oh yeah, the old ones, dude.
Oh,
The 24
nice,
hours a
dude.
day
Yeah.
streaming.
Did you
It's
watch the
excellent.
documentary?
No, I haven't.
There's a
I didn't
whole
even know there
doc.
was
There's a
one.
whole like 3-part documentary. I think it's on Netflix.
Well,
Let me
there we
see.
go. That's what I'm doing this weekend.
American Gladiator doc. Let's see. Yeah, the American Gladiators documentary, Muscles and Mayhem: The Unauthorized Story of American Gladiators on Netflix.
It's on Netflix.
Yeah, it's really good. It's really good. They go through Blaze, like all the originals, and how it. And there was a lot of shit that went down too. they there was a they barely
Yeah,
got
I'll check it
paid.
out.
They barely got
Oh
paid.
man. Yeah, I love the show, and I've been watching it on Amazon Prime. They got a streaming one of the Amazon channels is American Gladiators. I'll tell you another show I really enjoy was one that my mother got me in as a kid was Columbo.
Oh, yes.
Coincidentally cigar related with Peter
Yep.
Falk. I
Just one more
love
question.
Columbo.
Oh yeah,
Yep.
that's actually I'm gonna Columbo this. I got just one more question. You just got to have the hard boiled egg while you ask it.
there's
Uh,
there's no there's no show like that ever because every episode was almost like a movie, right?
mhm.
And then it's so unique because you already know who the killer is at the beginning of the show, and then you watch Columbo harass harass the murderer and solve it at the same time. It's so clever. It's comedic at
Yeah.
some points where it's just comedic the level of harassment that he has on the actual murderer, you knowing it, and it's like you're in on it, you know that he knows, but we definitely know, and then you watch him annoy that person into them and then him setting them up. It's just really interesting show, and I enjoy that quite a bit. Some of those older ones, those are things I've been watching a lot lately. But um, yeah, so yeah, those are my hobbies. Yeah, cigars are one of my big hobbies too. I am passionate about cigars in general. So I'm happy to sit and talk cigars of all kinds with people. I love technology. Like I love doing. I've spent a lot of time learning the Adobe suite the past 18 months. Illustrator, creating new designs, and that those are things that I really enjoy doing too, creating things. So I do have a lot of little hobbies. It's funny because a lot of my hobbies are things that work, and it's just things that I like doing, and now I get to use a lot of the things that I had for fun or things that I use in the businesses that I have, which also make those businesses more enjoyable for me too, and more enjoyable for me to be part of both things. So I utilize a lot of things I love into my career.
How do you see AI affecting the cigar industry?
Oh, huge, man. By the way, the industry is so far behind on it
Oh,
already.
very
People
much.
think people think that it's just um, just emails, just organizing things, just chatting, just getting in details, grammar, editing, putting out social media posts. It's so much deeper than that. A lot of people think it's just, the same thing too is like, hey, I'm just going to make an AI picture and throw it out there. Um, I've done some just for fun that I throw up, but I've also do a lot of work with AI that people don't know is AI. Um, because if you can take AI and create a base for other skills that you have. So for me, one of the main reasons why I started really getting into Adobe Illustrator, After Effects, Premiere, Photoshop, and things like that was because of what AI allowed me to use as a base. It allowed me to learn skills very very quickly because I already had some experience with these things. So in the cigar industry in general, I think the I don't want to say too much in it because there's a lot of stuff that I use, so I won't get into it too much. I don't want to give people free advice on this. If they want, they can call me up and they can pay me for it. But no, I see it being a huge part of the development of products. I see it being a huge development, a huge way to develop systems that help you run businesses better and more efficiently. I find it as a way to navigate regulatory things that pop up. Um, it provides good guidance, and then when you use hybrid AI, where you use AI and real things at the same time, that's where the power of AI becomes huge, and really increases efficiency. So this industry is ripe for the picking on this type of thing, and there's not a lot of people grasping it in the way
Mm-mm.
that it should be. There's a lot of people using it for a lot of unique and fun things, post pictures, artwork, and things like little basic stuff. More organized press releases. There's basic things that it gets used for, but I don't think there's a lot of people in the cigar industry utilizing it at a level one that I do, or two at a level where it's going to be as impactful as it could be. I think this industry is going to be behind on it for quite a while because the technology adapts very very fast,
Hmm.
and when so I use Chat GPT. When a new GPT comes out, like the new one's 5 right now. When 4 came out, my skill level doubled overnight. Okay, with things that I learned, things that I could do, and then ways that I could hybrid use it. Um, and there's still people that are not using it at that level. And so when the next version comes out, 6, I'll tell you literally every single one from when it started, everything I could do and everything I could get done, I could get it done quicker, faster, more efficiently because
Hmm.
I adapted it into new skill sets. So I I it's already shaping things in the premium cigar industry. Um, Behind the scenes things, systems are what it needs to be utilized for, creating procedures, guidelines, the way you operate a company is huge. But I don't think that's being used as much. And I know it's not, because when I talk to people about certain things, or they ask me questions about things or advice on things, it leads me to know that they're not doing some of the things that I am doing with it. And I'm not saying I'm the leader in it by any means. There's people out there that are probably beyond it, but um, every field in the planet has this type of effect, and if you're not in on it, you are going to be left behind at
Hmm.
some extent. So I advise anyone that isn't utilizing some sort of Chat GPT, Grok, or something like that. Because by the way, if you're not using AI is using you.
Oh, 100
Okay,
percent.
so people are like, I don't use AI. Well, you have an iPhone. You're using AI. You just don't know it.
Hmm.
It's utilizing you. So if
Hmm.
you can utilize AI, that's the big growth with it. And every time that it has a leaps and bounds, you leap and bound beyond it as well at the same time. So I see that every day. Um, and I said I won't get into other real specifics on it because I don't
Sure,
want to give up too much of my trade secrets on it and what I do,
of
and
course.
how I utilize it. But it's an unbelievable advantage to have a strong knowledge of the strength of AI, and how I use it. I'm utilizing small portions of it because there's just things that I don't need to use it for. But the use of it's incredible, and and it goes beyond all those things I talked about. Those are real basics. There's some non-basic things that you can do, that you can really do with it, that 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 make things, that really elevate things and eliminate your necessity of using professionals in some of those fields, to be very honest with you.
For sure, for
It
sure.
eliminates a lot. And AI is really the first innovation. Most innovations in mankind and humankind, for those people that are offended by mankind, um, have taken away blue collar jobs, right? So there used to be people that would dig ditches, and now there's machines that do it. There used to be assembly lines that were run by people that are now run by machines.
Elevator
And then you have
operators.
all of that stuff.
Yeah.
But all of the innovations have eliminated blue collar. What's happening right now with AI is it's eliminating from the top down. It's eliminating
Hmm.
people that went to school for 4 years with an engineering degree.
Hmm.
It's eliminating people who went to school for 4 years or 6 years to be a to be a photographer or a graphic designer. So I'm not saying those aren't traditional blue collar jobs. Those are more white collar,
Hmm.
tech jobs, things like that. It's eliminating a lot of those things. And if if you don't adapt and you're in one of those fields, you're going to be left behind.
Hmm.
So the people that I see that are utilizing AI are learning and becoming part of it, and integrating it into what they're doing. So every time it gets better, they level up as well at the same time. So if you're not using AI is using you. So I recommend, even if you are weary about it, start learning some of the basics, so you can at least you have some knowledge of what's going to be going on, and then you can have some of that level of efficiency as this continues to improve and improve. But the cigar industry's super behind in it. I know it is, because I the things that I currently do with it, there's people doing in the cigar industry, and I do it 10 times faster.
And to your point, you know, the time was when, you know, the car eliminated the horse, and then that eliminated the job for the guy that cleaned up the streets. The automatic elevator eliminated the need for the guy to drive the elevator. Innovation scares people because it takes jobs, but it also backfills jobs in the creation of, now you got to work on that elevator. Now you got to work on the car. So it's weird to have this innovation start from the top down, right? Like, one of the big fears is somebody that works every single day in AI, and works for one of the largest companies creating this AI. You're seeing a lot of fear inside the legal circles that AI is going to essentially, lawyers aren't going to be needed on the scales that they are, because you can go right in and create a lot of that
What
with AI.
what's more valuable now if you utilize AI? An accountant, a paralegal, or a plumber? What's more the
Plumber,
plumber is way
plumber,
more valuable.
exactly.
You know, like trade jobs, which went away because of innovation,
Hmm.
right, are now coming back because it's of a necessity. So it's interesting that this is creating more of those opportunities. And then in the same time, we're programmed to be like, well, hey, I need to go to college for 6 years to get a degree in engineering. So it is, I need to go to college for 10 years so I can, no, 6 years so I can be a CPA. Okay, I can take my taxes and throw it into Chat GPT and have it itemize everything,
Hmm.
and categorize it and put it on spreadsheets. And then I can give that to an accountant. They look at it. Oh, that's perfect. This makes sense. They submit it, and there's 10 less people that are involved in it.
Hmm.
But it's hard to find somebody to do plumbing now.
Yeah,
So, trades
they
are
print
becoming
money.
violently more important. Yeah, they're huge.
They're
I don't know if
printing
you saw that
money.
episode of South Park. They had that episode of South Park where um, like the plumbers and the electricians took over, and they were like, instead of having like the Mexicans standing out in front of the Home Depot, it was like the Mexicans showed up on a private jet, and there was lawyers and accountants and graphic designers and stuff standing in front of Home Depot looking for jobs from the plumbers. And the plumbers were riding around. That's a reality. There's a lot of money in that stuff, and we're seeing a really big shift. And I said those things aren't going to go away, but it's a big shift in a power shift, really, too, at the same time. Power and knowledge shift that's being put into place because AI. And then some dangers with it. You have people that have ability to create something. If I'm a
Deep
musician,
fakes.
yeah, I'd be kind of concerned that great music would be created without me. But that's important then to be really great at what you're doing. I think it filters out garbage. I think there's still room for greatness in anything. But there's obviously some dangers with it too. But the positives far outweigh any of the negatives.
Yeah, and you brought up your Star Trek. I hope you're also a Star Wars fan. I don't know if you knew this, but
Absolutely.
oh my gosh, James Earl Jones essentially
Yeah.
sold his voice to Disney and gave them like hundreds, or like almost 100 hours of reading, so that way they can digitally go in and use AI to create him for the voice of any Darth Vader character that comes later in the
Hmm.
future. It's stuff like
Yeah.
that you brought up. That's the big scare with Hollywood, is AI can make a movie and write a movie in a matter of minutes. Now, it might not be amazing, and of course AI isn't always the greatest. You do have to proofread your stuff, people. Don't trust it to be always accurate. But like, that is a big fear. So you brought up like a really good point. It's just interesting that this innovation is starting top down job removal versus bottom up job removal, to the point where trades are growing like crazy. I got buddies that are plumbers and electricians that are printing money. They're making 200
Hmm.
bucks an hour, and
Hmm.
that's something that AI will never take. I don't think AI will take away.
They can't. It can't because something's always going to fail, right? And there needs to be somebody there to fix it.
Hmm.
You have these massive data centers, right? So they have these huge data centers, and guess who's in charge of that? A person ultimately at the end of the day is in charge of it, but it's a very small number. Where if you maybe used to have a factory, but that person who has that job is a very strategic person and it's a very expensive position to be in charge of something like that. Now it's smaller, but in terms of of things like electricity. You're always going to need electricians. So there's a shortage of electricians. That's a great.
Mm-hmm.
The trades are way more valuable. Mike Rowe, Dirty Jobs, Mike
Mm-hmm.
Rowe has been preaching this for decades,
Mm-hmm.
and he's been saying the trades are coming back and they're coming back stronger now. And if you want to make real money and you want to do it quick and you want to retire young, go become a firefighter. Go become an electrician. Go become a plumber. Go become a very, if you want to go to college as an engineer, go and become a very specific engineering thing, something that's not general, that's very focused. So focused trades are very, very important, that require physical skill, that require a knowledge of how things work. That's what's going to come from this, is that expansion of the ability to be able to have the knowledge to fix those things and be part of constructing those things. So it's a huge shift. It's a very big shift, and I welcome it. I think it's nice. I don't want to see people lose their jobs. I don't see that, but I do want to see people become more innovative and take their skills to another level too. I don't want people to sit there and just go through the motions. Innovation takes change, and in that process, my recommendation to people was, you start seeing change, become part of the change. And if you don't want to be part of the change, that's fine too. Just make sure you put yourself in a financial situation where you're comfortable enough where you don't have to, where you can step away and enjoy your life. But if you're going to be part of it, you're in it, be part of the change. I encourage you to be part of that change, and if you are, there's going to be great opportunities out there for you.
No, I agree. I agree. And then my last question, and I didn't want to focus a lot on this because I think I already know the answer, but I would be remiss with the news in the media right now about Drew Estate and Hoyo de Nicaragua separating. I know you said you work with them. That's going to have
Mhm.
zero effect on you guys at all, correct?
Yeah, I don't anticipate it having concerns. I mean, that seems to be a sheer how the products are going to be distributed in the
Yeah.
U.S. I don't know the inner workings of what their relationship was. I was honestly kind of surprised that they'd only been working together for 17 years. So that was relatively not new, but relatively new. So the time that I've been in the cigar industry, almost all of it they've worked together. So I just assumed they'd been working together for a long, long time. I think probably that relationship originally started as a manufacturing relationship where
Mm-hmm.
they made a lot of products for them,
Mm-hmm.
and then they naturally, just at the same as Drew Estate got big, they naturally had their teams sell it. So I don't see it having an impact on anything that we're doing. It may have a positive impact. It could have a positive impact where there's turnaround times maybe might be quicker on some products. I don't know. This is all new, and that's yet to be told. But no, I don't see a huge impact on me at all. On the industry, obviously, it's provocative news, because it's two big companies, a near 60-year-old company in Hoya, and then Drew Estate being one of the largest cigar companies in the planet, and with their main ownership group, Swisher. But I think it'll be interesting. I thought that was what was kind of surprising. I wasn't sure what direction they were going to go. When the news came out, people asked me, like, "What do you think they're going to do with distribution?" And I threw around a couple companies that I said that could probably absorb it, and distribute on their behalf with salespeople and a footprint. But then they quickly came out and said they're going to do it on their own starting in 2026. So I think it'll be interesting to see what they do. And anything that's good for Hoya, I think they're going to represent themselves very well. They're great people over there. Anything that's good for Hoya is good for us. So
Mm-hmm.
if this is
Absolutely.
if they're going to be focusing heavier on what they're doing, I hope that helps grow their reputation. They already have one of the best. So I hope that continues to do that. And what I said, what's good for Hoya is good for me at Bentley.
Mm-hmm.
And Yeah, but ultimately that's between the two of them, and I don't see that having anything to do really with what we're doing.
Well, John, thank you so much for coming on. Let's not make it over 100 episodes before you come on again.
Yeah,
This has been a lot of fun. I appreciate you kind of diving into some really fun topics that that's what I like to do on this show. Kind of bring up topics that I don't really see or hear about on other shows, and I appreciate you kind of going into the pricing. So we solved something. We're looking at around $10, hopefully,
yes,
is
sir.
where you're thinking at for that new cigar release that comes out in a couple 3 weeks, and it's being released in 5 packs. So definitely everybody check that out when it's going to be released. My guess is Abe will carry them, right?
Oh yes,
So you
we'll
can
we'll have them there. Yep.
so you can go to keep your eye on Smokin's website, smokin.com, and head over there and pick up the 5 pack of the new short Corona release from Bentley. Check out Hoot and Young. And until we see you all again, smoke what you like. Smoke as often as you can and have a